Welcome back to Talking with Soup. My name is Dan Campbell, and my guest today is writer, producer, band frontman extraordinaire, Ace Enders of the Early November, and I Can Make a Mess, and Ace Enders and a Million Different People, and
all sorts of,
some sort of choking victim cover band.
Absolutely. I'm still in. That's real big.
That's a really big thing. It's just you and Joe Morrow.
Getting ready to relaunch that one.
Well, welcome. I'm excited to talk with you.
I'm glad to be here, Soup.
In your studio.
That's right.
So, to start, the Early November had what I would consider an abnormally rough go at it the first time around.
Yeah.
From what I would consider the most ludicrously non-advantageous contract ever signed for, I believe, 1 million records.
It was 1 million, 14,
around 1 million, 14, something like that records.
You're rounding, but I mean, whatever.
And then you guys had a string of what I would consider to be good intention, bad result scenarios.
Yeah.
And so I just want to talk about a couple of those. You guys went through vans like water.
Yes, we
originally,
did.
And I've heard some stories of crashing and having vans stolen from you.
Right.
So if you could enlighten me.
Well, the crashing, that was like probably the scariest, weirdest thing in the world because we were, driving through the desert at like 4 o'clock in the morning, Lauryn Hill's on the radio, like, naturally. And this is like vividly like the last thing that I remember before falling asleep. Now, picture your 15-passenger van, right? All your seats are out. You got the front bench in there. Then you got a couch. You got a great TV setup. You got video games. You got lights all around. You got luggage and whatnot.
Well, of course, strobes.
Has to be. And Lauryn Hill on the radio. Anyway, I'm sleeping on the floor next to the couch. Joe's sleeping on the couch, and everybody else scattered out throughout the van. And at some point through the night, everyone fell asleep listening to Lauryn Hill. And, Jeff saved our lives because we were about to go into a ditch, like one of those like concrete, where the water goes through the
drainage.
Yeah, the drainage ditch things. It's like seriously in the middle of the desert. He like screams, the driver, cracks the wheel the other way, and breaks like the steering rod. Van starts flipping and rolls off the road, which was it was pretty scary. That's when everybody woke up inside, and I just remember like flipping all around and like everything flying everywhere, and somehow everyone climbed out the window because we landed on our side. Everybody climbed out the window like 40 feet into the desert, a good 40 feet, could have been more, and with like only a couple scratches.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Waking up to that's terrifying. Matt Brash was driving once, and we hit a turkey vulture. Just shattered the windshield as the van started kind of fishtailing because he freaked out and tried to steer away from it at the last second. It was really scary. And we didn't even crash. We just smashed our windshield to pieces. And then you had a van stolen right before or right after that?
Right after that.
Right after that.
Like 2 weeks after that. Because we were this one's our fault mostly because we are so stupid. I mean, that was our fault too. But this one was, it was just it's terrible. It's like looking back at your younger days and really, knowing.
Really appreciating and savoring the stupidity.
Yeah, it was like probably the dumbest thing in the world because half of the band was still under 18, obviously. What you think when you're under 18, you're like, you roll into Atlanta, a big city that you've never been to before with all your gear and everything in your life. You go to a parking garage, and of course you're going to ask the guy who seems to be taking tickets there where you could find a strip club that doesn't card.
Yeah.
Naturally, as an underage kid, that's what you're going to, think exists.
I think that's everyone's natural reaction to Atlanta.
Yeah. So we do that. Somehow convince my wife, at the time with my girlfriend, me and her, they convinced us that this was a good idea, and we were like, all right, we'll humor it and go along. We go along with it, park the van, the guy gives us some directions, of course we're idiots, and listen to him. We get to the place, and it's like the most luxurious, beautiful strip club that you ever saw. Like Raven, the wrestler, was getting, rolling up in a limo as we got there, and that's when we realized that he just stole all of it.
Gave you the wrong directions, took off. It didn't even work at the parking garage.
Nope. It was a good one.
That's so bad.
It is.
I thought that he at least worked there and someone else stole it. When Joe told me that story, he pretended to work there and stole your van.
Yep.
God, that is a
He was so good because he was
scenario.
so nice. He was so friendly. He's like, yeah, I could help you out. No big deal.
Absolutely. So, following the series of negative van incidents, you thought you were paying homage later on to heroes of yours by including a Get Up Kids lyric in Baby Blue.
Yes.
And that didn't go over super well either.
It didn't. It was that was a really tough moment for me because, I mean, I hate talking about stuff like this, obviously.
I'm sorry, we can skip it.
No,
skip it. Okay.
I mean, I like talking about it, but I hate talking about it.
Fair.
Just because it's like, I mean, like everybody, I don't want anybody to think any differently about the Get Up Kids, which is why I never talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not about talking bad about anybody. And I understand why they did what they did at the time, now looking back, but I probably would not do that, and I don't know many people who actually would go through with suing someone to, you know.
To clarify, you, again, thought by paying homage you were putting a Get Up Kids lyric in one of your songs, and they sued you thinking that you were maliciously ripping them off, correct?
No, they sued us just because we were on drive-thru and we were new emo, or whatever you want to, pop punk emo. We originally got clearance from someone, their management, which was Vagrant at the time, I believe, or something. I forget who it was. Anyway, they gave us clearance, and then after we had already released the track is when they sued us.
That's a heartbreaking thing. Yeah,
it really was.
It was your favorite band.
It really was. It made me realize how serious the music business is at such a. I mean, I was young, but I mean, I'd been in it for a while, but that was my first like real brush with like people in our world who, you know, was that serious. You know, was that like, this is real. Like, I just got papers. You know.
Yeah, and you guys weren't strangers to lawsuits, because when I went to see them in early November as a youth, I went to the Troc, and I distinctly remember Serge running full speed, jumping, front flipping over the security gap like an Olympic athlete with his bass, landing in the crowd on his back and still playing. And he used to be a madman. He still is a madman on stage.
Yeah.
And he, I believe, knocked you out cold once.
Yeah.
Correct?
I have a permanent dent in
the side of your head.
Right there.
From the top of his bass, right?
From the body.
The body of his bass that got all the way up to, what are you, 5'11"?
Almost 6 months.
Yeah. Was able to get to the top.
I was probably like rocking in some way, like about to do a jump or something, so I was like down low. But yeah, man.
He came through. And then he also had a lawsuit issue as well from jumping into the crowd, right?
He had a couple.
But not just one.
Yeah, he had a couple. But they got resolved.
So an early rough go. But in this kind of boom period for this style of music and drive-thru being so big, I know that a lot of people from that genre and that were on that label took that chance and that popularity, and they moved to LA or Orange County, they moved to New York. You stayed in Hamilton, New Jersey,
That's right.
and which is a town I know well. My girlfriend's family is from here, and so I'm wondering, what was it? I know the charm of it, but what was it that kept you locked into a small farming town in South Jersey and kept you away from the big lights of the big city?
Well, family is extremely important to me, and having like a rooted, like I've always been a very like grounded, not let myself get carried away in the whole lights of and whatever of the music business. I try to stay grounded in my, you know, me and my wife have been together since middle school, so we have a lot of just history here, and you know, it's just will always be a special place. I always have the thought of moving somewhere, but you know.
And Joe told me that in high school, you and he would get in, I think maybe like a Dodge Bronco that you owned.
A Ford Bronco, yeah.
Ford Bronco. Dodge Bronco. A Ford Bronco. It's a hybrid car.
Yeah.
But not like a gas electric, like two brands.
Yeah.
Collab car. A Ford Bronco, and would go to some place called The Pit. Can you tell me about The Pit?
Yeah, we would go, we would go mudding. Me and Joe, we'd get, like, look at us now. But seriously, we would get in my truck and we would go find mud and trails and seriously just drive through it. One time we drove through The Pit. It was flooded one time. We were like, let's drive straight through it. Water was seriously up to the like windows almost coming in. And I'm like, nervous as can be because, like, I just got to keep going now.
Yeah,
There's no turning back at this
too
point.
deep.
Right? It's just too deep. And luckily we got through it. Yeah, we burned off some water for a while. There was, like, smoke for a little bit after that, but it was good.
Good.
We used to do that. Actually, I was thinking about this last week. I don't know why. I mean, I love the wilderness. Obviously, that's why we did that. But my whole entire high school career, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that I ever took seriously was drafting class. Because I was so, like, I failed everything else. But drafting, like, I took super serious. My senior year, I had 2 drafting classes. And I loved drafting. My 4 years of high school was, you know, drafting was the only thing. That was it for me. That and lunch. And seriously, I got my blueprints that, like, okay, I designed my house. Like, I feel like this is awesome. The day that I got my blueprints, right, this is all I'll ever have to remember this house. Me and Joe have the idea to go drive on a dirt road and find some, like, something weird to drive through.
Yeah.
So we go drive through this, like, clay muddish type thing, and, like, we get stuck, and I get out, and, like, my new Etnies, obviously, get dirty.
This is the
right?
perfect year for that.
With mud. And I'm like, oh man, these are my new Etnies. What am I going to do? Grab my drafting plans that I had just, like, this is my 4 years of high school right here.
Yeah.
And just clean off my shoes with them, roll it up, and there it is, and I'll never ever see that thing again. And I was thinking about that last week. Like,
Rest in shit drafting portfolio.
Seriously, that was my biggest accomplishment of high school.
And it just went right out the window.
Yeah, the day I got them.
Literally out the door of the truck.
That's right, you got to keep Etnies safe.
So, you and I share a love for Friday Night Lights.
Absolutely.
What is your favorite moment from all 5 seasons of Friday Night Lights? What culminates? What's your moment?
I think my favorite moment, and this is, like, just because I love underdogs.
Yeah.
Always root for the underdog. The very first episode, when Matt Saracen throws that ball.
Puts it up there.
That's that's it. It won't get any better than that for me. That's
is Matt the character that you feel the most connected with? Or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm a Matt Saracen man myself.
Yes.
I was debating over a Matt Saracen or a Tim Riggins jersey, and I'm just like, I'm not Tim Riggins.
No.
I'm not a Tim Riggins guy.
Tim Riggins is cool. He's got great hair, good abs, but...
Great abs.
Yeah.
Killer abs.
Not me.
Long hair, tight abs.
Absolutely.
The keys to life.
He's the model American right there.
And you played football as a kid.
Yeah.
What position?
I was a tackle.
Defensive tackle, offensive tackle?
Both.
Both. Played both sides of the ball. Did you ever have, like, a hero moment? Like, you got the strip sack, or...
Caused a couple fumbles that were pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, as a lineman, you don't have too many of those moments.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was great. I made the All-Stars one year. I felt good.
Yeah. Now, will your son play? Is already going to play football?
It's up to him. I don't know. He loves football. He loves sports, so he might, but...
Would you coach? Could you be Coach Taylor?
I would definitely be Coach Taylor.
I would love to see you
I
as
would
Eric
coach Taylor every day. I'd be the most serious Pee Wee coach you ever saw.
That would be incredible.
Oh, yeah.
A few years after the Early November broke up or went on hiatus or whatever it is that you guys did, a few years into that, you had Artie.
Mm-hmm.
And that during that period, you were trying to push a solo career with A-Centers and a million different people.
Yep.
Which I guess isn't necessarily solo then, because there's a million.
There was at least
it's a number of people. And then, just before the Early November got back together, you had your daughter, Ivy.
Right.
And so, the struggling musician idea, that metaphor, has been, that horse is beaten to death and made into glue. But when you had Ivy, did you think about getting the Early November back together for a more kind of stable thing instead of going it on your own, or continuing to go it on your own?
No.
That thought crossed your mind, or just they're two separate occurrences
They were
that
two
happened around
separate.
the same time?
Yeah. Yeah, they just... The Early November getting back together just, like, was one of those things that just happened. I wanted to get the Early November back together prior to that, prior to Ivy and everything, just because I wanted to do it again, but nobody else was ready. And then, it was just out of the blue, just
Worked out, timing was nice.
Yep.
Now, if, say, a day came where music didn't seem a viable career anymore to support the family,
mm-hmm.
do you know what you'd like to do? Would you go back to school for drafting? Would you coach Tim Riggins?
I mean, obviously, the dream would be to coach Tim Riggins, because if I could be around him every day, it would be awesome.
Or a Tim Riggins-like character, maybe Artie.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know, though.
You could coach the Hamilton Blue Devils. Go Blue Devils.
That's right. Go Blue Devils. Go Big Blue.
Big Blue.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'll just... I'm happy doing production. I love doing production. I love doing writing. I love the things that I get to do, and I'm really fortunate that I still have a place in the music industry, even, you know, whatever it may be. The thing with me is, like, I'm always, you know, going to... I've always been a hustler. I've always been someone who is willing to work. So I'm excited to, you know, to see where it ends up and what happens. But, you know, Soup, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I'll probably end up like being like the new Bruno Mars or something like that.
Any day now.
Yeah.
But you've been doing a lot of songwriting for hip hop and for country and a bunch of different genres.
Yeah.
Is it a weird transition to not only to write different styles of music and different styles of lyrics, but to write lyrics that aren't intended for you to sing?
It's actually way easier, because these thoughts and these feelings that I'm writing about now are true feelings that I have, just like I could never sing about them in that way before. So now, like, when I can put together a line like, you know, like you hear on the radio, it's just like, just a different way of looking at things, a different perspective at all is all it is, and it's
easier for you.
Yeah, it's awesome, because I'm cheesy at heart. Like, I'm not cool. I'm not cool, and it's easy to not, like, it's natural for me to write like a more cheesier line than it's hard to write a cool line sometimes, you know. We're not all as awesome as you, Soup.
I know. It's a struggle every day. Being awesome at it, not writing lines. That comes with water.
I was right there.
What's it like? You were telling me earlier that sometimes you take the kids on tour. I imagine there's difficulties to that, because I imagine they don't always want to stay up for the show. They don't have this theme to stay up and watch you play. Do they go back to the hotel? And I'm assured that they're not always particularly stoked for a long ride to the next city.
Yeah. It's traveling these days is a lot easier than it was when I was young, you know, with TVs and cars and all that stuff and games and whatnot. But yeah, usually we try and keep it, the last time we toured with Artie, we kept it very, like, had activities every day for him to do and learn about. So, like, if I was going to a show, we'd stop, like, say if we're going to Connecticut or wherever. Along the way, we'll try and find out, like, if there's, like, any type of museum you know, that could be quick. We go to the museum, we do whatever, we get a good early start, and then they go back to the hotel, I go to the venue, I get dropped off, get whatever they need to get ready, and maybe come back to the show, maybe not, maybe go hang out, do something else, go to a play place or whatever.
That's actually great for the kids. Then they get to see a whole lot more of the world than anyone else.
Absolutely, and I think it really helped with Artie, like making him, you know,
But they're going to appreciate it even more as they get older too.
Yeah.
Now you get the classic, like, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?"
Well,
Dad, more juice.
We haven't toured in a little while. I'm sure now, the next time we do, it'll be like that, because they're at that phase for sure.
Cool. Well, I always want to close these on a down note.
Absolutely. Why not?
I want you to give a cautionary tale. What's the biggest mistake you've made in your career?
The biggest
mistake you've made in your career, so that someone else that wants to walk this path can avoid that pothole.
Oh. Well, I'd have to say the biggest mistake that I made was not being able to respect the business side of what we do as much as the artist side, as much as the side that you want to win. You know, the one that you want it to be this pure thing, and you believe that if you make art that is pure and genuine and comes from a place of honestly, like, wanting to help someone, then it'll be successful, and not buying into all the other stuff. But all the while not really, you know, I was always pushing away the business side, being like, that doesn't matter. That's probably the biggest mistake that I've made, is not...
Would rather have given it some credence?
Yeah, I've definitely put a little bit more stock in that.
Because I'm sure that you wouldn't want to move to the direct opposite and all business, no art, but maybe finding the fine line to walk.
Yeah, and I mean, this, at my age now, I've been doing this for, I'm going on 15 years almost, that I've, you know, it's it's something like, I'm old now, almost, Soup. I'm getting there, so it's like I wish that I had a little bit more brains back when I actually had the opportunity to make something really special happen.
Okay, well, thank you so much for doing this, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.